that they will file the patent on behalf of you and they will license.
So this is one of the methods that breaks the ice, right?
This is solution, right?
What Dr. Mishra said, it breaks the ice between what you're asking and what he is offering.
So this is
As
the
a-
solution.
Exactly.
That's right.
One solution.
Yeah.
But then we take the right to
That's right. So that's a trade-off.
inventor to practice. As
Correct.
long as you start it. Now, if it gets taken over, you'll have to talk.
But that's a
And I will also add one more point. I think what Dr. Gerg is doing, he should not be taking the rights to the patent. I'll tell you the reason. Israel, on the other hand, the government takes a very, very, very active role in the startup. And any IP created there, the government also has rights to that IP. And I know there are several startups that get stuck in the process of, getting clearance from the government. And most of the acquisitions happens from the US. And for you to get separated from the government and get the release from that rights, it takes a long period of time. And that becomes a hesitation point from the acquisition perspective. So, in my opinion, government should not have the rights.
But we are not taking any rights.
Exactly. I think that's the right thing.
Okay, that's fine.
But also we realize another thing, I think most of the government policies, and that's what from a startup I would see, the way they are constructed, I think they are for little advanced stage startups. If you look at even the newer policies, most of them have been announced, and we are hoping that probably with Mr. Modi, whatever the newer generation policies will come in, they will take care of the early stage startup, because the government will truly look at it, a differentiation between MSME, a small enterprise, and the startup. I think that's where the boundary blurs. So they don't really look at too early stage. So the 15 lakhs thing you talk about, probably the startup or the small businesses who can afford to do that thing, for them it will work well. But on that note, I think we are run out of the time on there. There are going to be subsequent sessions today later on the IP. And with this, I'd like to thank our entire panelists, Dr. Mishra, Dr. Ajay, and Mr. Prakash. I think it's been a very valuable conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Teas. And I got involved in it when I joined IT, and it was an accident that I got into IPR. I never knew of it, even though I filed a patent earlier in my earlier job in IIT Delhi and Texas Instruments. So in the IT, like when I started understanding it, and I having a background of the industry as well as the academia, so it enthused me with the sense that how can you actually use IPR for the purpose it is meant for. That is, any IPR system, unless and until it is creating an economic ecosystem around it, does not have any meaning. IPR only, otherwise, the old way of converting research into tangible outputs, that is literature publications, was the best way. In India, unfortunately, either because of the lack of funds or our age-old societal ethics of knowledge is for sharing, IPR has never been given a due importance that it is supposed to do if we consider ourselves as an important global players. So we started with few things. First of all, as usual, which most of the governments does, is that their public funded research is converted into IP. So the IT as of date holds around 300 patents and a large number of copyrights and all that, because we are basically supporting the software industry also. Then our interaction with the industry started that filing patents and the cost associated with the patents is not the only thing. As I talked about the few things that is required for converting a comprehensive patent ecosystem or IPR ecosystem, is that how can you use the knowledge of patent knowledge for value add into your product development, or giving an early kickstart to a tech startup. It is always useful that before you actually test your idea on the field, you get to know what is the existing prior art on that, right? If there is an existing prior art, there is no use doing a reinventing the wheel. So we should all understand that the biggest resource knowledge for prior art is the patent database. Around 5 million patents are existing globally, which is a huge source of knowledge. And the patent system not only gives you a monopolistic right, but also in turn what it does to the society is that you actually put your research into the public domain, right? So that is the knowledge. So it is always useful that you do a prior art search prior to even starting your product development or research. Look, what are the existing IPs? If those existing IPs are patented and protected, I should not be infringing and getting into a soup later after when I get into the market. So in my department we created some 2 prior art search centers for ICT per se, because ICT is a very typical area where software, people talked about software having, when the technical idea is associated and all that, the patent also becomes very, because any search is based on some subdomains or classes. In software it becomes very fuzzy because a particular patent or a particular technology might be used in many other areas of technology. A fuzzy logic being used in a spacecraft as well as in a washing machine. So whether you have to look at the washing machine related patents or the technology, so it gives you an insight can you make multiple uses of a particular IP that you have. It also gives that. So we have 2 prior art search centers, one in Pune and one in Delhi, in my office, where we give a prior art search opinion to all innovators, inventors, researchers on a complimentary basis. And that too, we do not request you to come personally, but we have got an online platform through which people can interact with us, put their queries, we will reply them in a time-bound manner. And the good thing we have done is we have used a semi-governmental organization to make the things work. We do not ourselves do it because we are the slowest people on the planet. So that is one. So that is one thing. That also will, a lot of queries that come out in many of you asking during the lunchtime, that is a limited interaction we can have. We have got that online mechanism of an help desk. So what I will request you all first is, please register yourself on the website called ict-ipr.in. ict-ipr.in, register yourself, start interacting with our people, and they will give you a first level opinion. And if you don't feel it's sufficient, then you can go to the experts who are there, and many of them are in Bangalore itself. But they will charge you, we don't charge you for that, for the first level opinion, right? So that is one thing, the prior art search. Now the second thing is, the moment you find it that the time has come that I need to file a patent. The patent has geographical boundaries, as you all know. The Indian patent might cost you anything, filing a patent to grant might cost you around 1 lakh rupees, and which is spread around a period of 5 years or so. So the cost is not much. Most of you can bear it. But if you are into the ICT domain, your obvious market, you are doing component-based research most of the time, component-based product development also, which goes into a bigger product. And the bigger product might be existing somewhere in the West or Japan, Korea or China. So you need to protect your technology globally. The moment you step yourself outside India, the cost becomes exponentially higher. As I said in the earlier session, that it might be that if you're filing in 5 geographies, 30 to 50 lakh can be anything. The cost can range anything from, even if you're only filing in US, 7 lakhs to 10 lakhs. So now you need some sort of a support if you're a young company. This support has to come from somewhere. Initially, it's always, this support can come from intellectual ventures. This support can even come from venture capitalists. But the most obvious thing in a developing economy is that government should come forward and support it. There have been existing schemes like Mr. Jairam talked about the Karnataka government giving 5 lakhs. But in that, the catch is that they give you post-grant. They give you post-grant. So if you have got a patent certificate in your hand, they will reimburse that amount. But by the time, many things have happened. And if you are there, if you are a 4-year company still interested in a patent, in that patent, you have matured that technology to be product ready. You might have got some investment, otherwise you have failed. Then that patent has got no meaning if you have failed. Right? So the support has to come from the day one. This SIP-EIT scheme, it reimburses 50% of the cost, and we start with the initial stage from the day you start thinking of filing internationally. Not only you have filed it, you start thinking of filing internationally. You propose to file internationally, you can file it to us. The SIP-EIT scheme, it reimburses the 50% of the cost, and that cost builds in everything. It builds in the cost of the attorneys, which is typically it's 70-30. The 70% is the attorney cost and 30% is around the government fees. So we reimburse everything, 50% of it, to the maximum of 15 lakh rupees per patent. But this reimbursement is built around, we have mitigated ourselves, that we have built around the fact that we only support 25% at the time of filing, 50% at the time when you are in the examination stage, 75% of the cost at the time of grant, which is also the maximum money which is charged at the time of grant, because in many of the countries, annuity is built into the grant stage. So that is some of the important factors of this scheme, which have been taken care while formulating a scheme. Is first is that it's a pure grant. Government do not take any rights in the patent as such. The IT will have no rights. The rights, complete rights, is of the inventor or the organization. We only give to organizations, not to individuals. That is another thing. You have to be a registered company. We give it only for ICT based patents and for no other patent, because my ministry, the business, we only deal in ICT. The second important thing is we have taken care of the timelines. The timelines is that, like, what happens is we only give, government will only support once you have approved it. There are few ifs on which we actually evaluate your patent. There is an expert committee which evaluates it on the basis of whether there is what are the chances of your patent being filing being converted into the patentability. So we base ourselves on the prior art search report that you provide and the interaction that the expert committee has with you, right? So that is one thing. So because we are approving it or we are evaluating it, so normally it is the perception or the fact is that there is a long period of time that is taken by the government to come to a decision that we will support you. But that doesn't matter. We have got an online system for you to file on the SIP-EIT portal.